The best top expert tips and hacks to make your life better. LifeHakx. Technology, business, multimedia, wellness and health, events, reviews, and
this is Mary Collins from LifeHakx Media, and I have the absolute pleasure to have Lynda Emmett on with me today. Hi, Lynda. How are you?
Hi, how's it going? Thanks so much for having me on today.
No worries. It's a pleasure. I will tell the audience a little bit about you, and then we'll get right into it.
Fabulous.
So we are going to discuss today Pinnacle of Success and Life Hacks. Lynda Emmett is a registered life executive and neuroscience coach. She's a clinical hypnotherapist, rapid transformation hypnotherapist, and a meditation teacher. She works through the one-to-ones, group sessions, workshops, retreats, and her podcast. So with that, Lynda, let's get into it. How did you become interested and involved with therapies?
I think honestly, it was very much through the life I've lived myself growing up, and as a young adult. Looking back now, I didn't know it at the time, but I mean, like, my self-worth was extremely low. I would have struggled with bulimia, addiction, emotional eating. The life I lived would have actually been, if your stress levels are 0 to 10, I would have lived a life at an 8 or 9, and I just thought that's how you lived. I was never present. I was always thinking of what might happen. What was I overthought? I was an over worrier. I was just very, very unhappy. I was deep down, I was really unhappy, and I had no real understanding of why, and I thought that's what life was like. And then I had a couple of losses back to back, very close together, and then I suffered very badly with anxiety, and it impacted everything. It turned my life inside out at the time, and it was one of the most scariest experiences that I would have had. And I know now it was certainly connected to the grief I was struggling with, not being able to ask for help, and years of built up trauma, upset, and, as I say, low self-worth, low confidence. And I think I just reached a point where my system just could not take anymore, and it came out in severe anxiety. So I struggled with that for about easily a year and a half, and it got to a point where I couldn't sleep at all. I was drinking to try and sleep. I was a single mom. I was struggling with a lot of balls up in the air, and I decided to look into meditations and learn a little bit about the mind. Mm-hmm. And I first got into meditations. I started looking lightly at hypnotherapy and coaching. And that is where I suppose my journey began. And not to sound cliche, but one of the things that stuck with me is I describe myself as a strong person, a resilient person. You know, I've had to grow up that way. Mm-hmm. But there's people out there that wouldn't be as strong or resilient. And if what I went through impacted me the way it did, I can only imagine what anxiety and stress like that, you know, can do to others. And if I can help, if someone hears me or sits with me in the chair and can live happier and feel better and walk out and literally just in the mornings wake up happier, feeling happier in their skin, in who they are, and living a better life. Mm-hmm. Because for most of us, there is a better life out there. We're just in serious conflict with ourselves, and it's our own internal world that needs to change. And that's what I've spent years studying, learning about, and living, and giving back to my clients, and I absolutely love it. So I suppose that'd be how my journey into therapy first began, and since then I've done the neuroscience coaching, the rapid transformation therapy, energy healing, meditation. They all move into the same thing. They all complement each other hugely. And because every mind is different, they give me the opportunity to work with people in many different ways, depending on what works best with them.
Right. And, I think it does really resonate with people when they go to see someone who can understand, who can empathize with their issues because they themselves have had some form of suffering. There's so much clinicalness about going to a doctor now where they kind of like take notes and, arm's length and, it's just a different level. And a lot of people fail to help with mental health. They don't go to the doctor because they don't want to be looked down on, as to where someone like yourself, who's a therapist, can relate. And that's really important, to be able to be relatable.
100%. And the other side is that our GPs are not necessarily mental health professionals.
Not at all.
And the way the Western system is now structured, very much, it's throw a prescription at it, throw some pills at it.
100%.
Which a lot of the time, now I'm not saying there isn't a place for pills and medication and things like that. And in some circumstances, they do wonderful things. They save lives. I just think now it's like a fast fix all the time. And these do not work with the mind and the brain. A lot of it is healing. Like, even down to our physical pain, you can relate a huge amount of that back to emotion.
Yeah.
And it's dealing with those things. So when we go into, say, your average GP or doctor and you're handed a prescription after 4 minutes, sometimes it has the opposite effect. You leave thinking there's more wrong. Like you need to be medicated for anxiety or stress or depression or these things. And these drugs that are given out on prescription, a lot of them, if they came onto the market today, they wouldn't make it onto the market. They'd be banned.
Right.
They're heavy-duty drugs that we're handing out to teens, young adults and adults. And if they don't have the understanding of what they're taking and the impact it has, it can have extremely negative results. And then if they try to come off them, they're left with the original issue they had, be it anxiety, stress or depression. Plus, one, they think they need the medication because a professional told them they did. And two, the withdrawal effects from that too. So,
and the side effects, all of the side effects. This is what, this is why it's constantly happening every few years where things have been pushed because they get paid. And it turns out that in actual fact, healing was a mental thing that they needed. They needed help with their emotions. They needed a lot of these medications simply bury the person even more. Just it's not preventative. It's not really to help heal. It's just to kind of silence the pain or the anger or whatever it is that they're going through. So, people think, oh, well, NHS is free. It's worth going to the NHS. It's free. Not only besides the waiting lists, but it's not really free. You get 10 minutes. And then you're pushed out, right? So that's one of the biggest problems in the UK. The US, you go for more than 10 minutes, you're paying thousands of, hundreds and then thousands of dollars. And so this is ultimately what I think people need to think about when they hear therapy, whether they understand it or they think it's new age or whatever they think, although these things are actually quite ancient, a lot of them. They need to consider that ultimately healing starts with the mind.
And
so
I think
the mind, sorry, no, go on.
No, I think sometimes when people are thinking about coming to a therapist, a hypnotherapist or a coach, what they're scared of is the coach or the hypnotherapist or wherever the modality they choose, of them if they go in and, uncovering this huge amount of pain. If they go in and open up to what's wrong, they'll be in a lot of pain. They'll be upset. They'll be crying. They'll be, And the thing is, that pain is already there. Whether they see a coach or a therapist, how it's coming out is in their behaviours. Where it's showing up is in their behaviours. Their anxiety, their stress, their numbing out,
their body,
drinking,
their pain,
smoking, exactly, pain running through their body, migraines, hernias, you name it.
Yeah,
they're in pain that way, and all that your therapist is doing or your coach is allowing them to understand it and understand themselves, understand that their mind is their biggest limit, and that once they overcome a lot of the negativity and the negative beliefs that are embedded from childhood. and free themselves from them, they won't have that relentless inner voice in there hammering them and causing them pain every minute of every day, telling them how they're not good enough, smart enough, they're not doing enough, they're not skinny enough, they're not whatever it is, or whether they're covered in shame, guilt, trauma has impacted them. It's already having an impact every day. What your therapist and your coach and what I aim to do is release them from that and give them the tools and equipment and everything they need to empower them to believe in themselves and understand that they've always been who they need to be. It's unbecoming all the crap and the gunk that has possibly been thrown at them and caused them pain is what we need to do. And we don't, 80 to 90% of the time, need a pill for that. We need to support, accept and care about ourselves to do that and be strong enough to ask for help. We all need it.
Right. Exactly. There's even therapists helping therapists. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. So
100%.
what in your opinion, or neuroscience coaching, how does it differ from, say, hypnotherapy?
Okay. Well, hypnotherapy I find absolutely amazing for getting to the root cause of a behavior very, very quickly, rather than just deal with the symptoms like emotional eating, poor sleep, frustration, overwhelm. Hypnotherapy is powerful for getting to the root that's driving that behavior, the belief that's in there, re-triggering that habit all the time. I use hypnotherapy quite a bit for that. The coaching I'd use before that, the neuroscience coaching, for building understanding, trust, and awareness for the client. And awareness for the client to understand themselves what's driving the behavior. The neuroscience piece comes in when you're the likes of neuroplasticity, and that's where that show up hugely. How our brain is absolutely, from every experience, every new experience we have to build new neurons. It's a phenomenal shapeshifter that will mold to what we choose to put in there and what we choose to change. And the mother of all learning is repetition, and how to use neuroplasticity to your own benefit. I mean, like, they now can teach stroke victims to reuse limbs through neuroplasticity. That is how powerful a shapeshifter our brain is. And understanding that it serves us. We don't serve it. We effectively, it's like a program. Like, people talk a lot about mindset, and a lot of the time we don't know even what mindset is. And effectively, it's the settings of our mind. It's what settings that we're running it on. But at any time, and using the power of neuroplasticity, we can change that. Like, people think, again, old dog, new tricks. Of course, there's neuromapping in there from habits that we've carried for a long time. But we're born with 84 billion neurons. And when we're 80, we still have 84 billion neurons. We just use far less of them because we're in particular habits that we've built over time.
Like muscles.
Exactly.
You use one arm, you're going to have one strong arm, one muscular.
Exactly.
And no, absolutely. I mean,
and the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Do you know what I mean? And that's why the likes of visualization and that for the brain is monstrously powerful, hugely powerful.
With concussion, they use imagery to help people with concussions, to help rebuild the neuroplasticity in their brain. I mean, there's just so much research on it, and I think it's wonderful, the idea of combining the science and facts with the actual
I love my science
training. Yeah, me too. So I mean, my change hypnotherapy, and then that's actually neuroplasticity is the N in change. So 100% agree and understand. So giving people an idea of what you specifically like to deal with, are there any kind of issues that you prefer to help with or that you specialize in?
I would certainly, my client base would predominantly be anxiety, stress, and addictions. Because I'm extremely passionate about that, because I would have struggled with a lot of those myself. I would have, as I say, I would have had the eating disorders, the addictions to cigarettes. I had a crap relationship with alcohol. It's self-harm. You name it. I could write a book just on the issues that I had, and I've lived. But the thing is, they are not me. They are just something I did to survive at the time. That's all it is. And what I mainly work with clients would be, anxiety, stress, and addictions. And so that would show up. Emotional eating comes up for a lot of my clients. Poor sleep, very, very, very high expectations of themselves. They set a very high bar. Underneath it all, they're amazing, beautiful, very, very sensitive people who the world and others hurt very early on. And they have been living their lives directed by a set of beliefs that in their head that just are not true about them.
Right.
So that's mainly what I work with. I do that in one-to-ones. I do workshops. I go in. I do corporate work, stress management in the workplace, resilience, burnout, things like that. As I say, I do the one-to-ones. I do wonderful retreats, and coming up now, a workshop with Freddy Jacquin.
Right.
And I do meditation classes.
Right. Okay. And so when you speak about addictions, are we talking like, because, I think speaking of Freddie, he talks about what is an addiction versus what is an addiction, and people think smoking is an addiction. And then he would turn around and say, well, in actual fact, it's a habit. Do you deal with addictions that are in the state of where they will start shaking, throwing up, have heart failure if they don't have it, which of course can occur with, you said, alcoholism. Do you work with a doctor when you're dealing with those patients? Are there any requirements you ask of them?
100%.
Have that kind of actual addiction?
I would have a full intake that I'd give out to clients. As you say yourself, alcohol is extremely dangerous. The nature of addiction a lot of the time is to hide what they're doing. So I'd be extremely mindful in working with alcohol or drugs. I've had clients that haven't let me know, even though I'd send out a form, that haven't let me know what types of medication that they're on. I found it out during session, which can be dangerous sometimes. And so each one I'll assess at the time, but certainly 100%, I would never recommend any client come off any form of medication or anything they're taking without going and seeing their GP.
Right.
And that includes even alcohol, because people can be in session and feel absolutely amazing, get the shifts, get the changes, and you can see the lightness in them.
LifeHakx.com.
And if you're an addict, you're potentially surrounded by a lot of the triggers and a lot of the people that you had that addiction.
Well, there you go. I was going to actually ask you about that, because I was going to say, what are your top tips to changing lifestyle or motivation? And you just hit the nail on the head. A lot of it is change your social circle.
The whole lot of it. It's looking at and understanding. One, it's getting to the root underneath. What's driving that behaviour? What are you moving so hard ahead of or away from that you need to drink to push that down or get away from it? What is that pain? And generally, at some point in their lifetime, the person has learned that they were harmed in some way, hurt, and it was never healed. And it'd be a true trauma. There's many different ways, many different ways. And it's one, getting to the root, and then what within their lives, what are the triggers? What are the people, events, or places that trigger that habit? Because they're it's learning what they are, where they show up, when they really feel they need the smokes, the drink, the whatever it is, the gambling, the porn, whatever. When it's triggered, what's triggering it? So what I'll always say to clients is it's roots, habits, and triggers is what I'll get them to look at, and start first finding them and finding out what it is that they're feeling at that time that's causing that to be triggered. That's one of the things that I certainly work with clients. And for tools and tips, it depends on what it is that they're struggling. Like if it's for addiction, as I say, or for anything, it's finding out. Same with anxiety. Where is the anxiety being triggered? Is it particular people? People struggling with anxiety tend to really, really dislike confrontation, to be really, really be avoidant of confrontation. And that can trigger anxiety very, very quickly. If they have to have an uncomfortable conversation, they'll be playing it out in their head and imagining worst outcome.
Right.
And then literally bringing on, and then, it's the calm effect. They're thinking it first. Their mind is here, and you're having the physical response then.
That's why I was thinking it's so important for a therapist, because there are a lot of people that they are so traumatized without even realizing it, that they would ask them, well, what is it that's triggering it? And they're like, I don't know, and they just don't know what's triggering it. And they don't know what the source is either, because it might have been something very early on in their childhood.
Yeah.
So it is important, I think, to definitely have a therapist to help guide them through these experiences, so that they don't misdirect and end up even more stressed. It's like almost like binge dieting. I call it binge dieting, because as we've been sort of trained to do, starve yourself because summer's coming, and you can relax because it's winter and it's Christmas. You have to eat everything that your parents or your family provide, and then you go back to starving yourself. And it's a binge mentality that we will also do to fix ourselves, or to fix those around us or whatever. And it's so important to have someone to help guide you, so that you don't end up doing the wrong things quickly or too intensely, when a therapist will say, hey, listen, let's do this stage, and then this stage, and then the next. And this is where we will lead to the, pinnacle of success. And then before that, I want to talk about your podcast. So when did you start podcasting?
Oh, I started podcasting only about, I think, 3 months ago now.
Okay.
The very first one was released. And again, the podcast is called Happiness is an Inside Job.
Nice.
Because, again, I absolutely powerfully and firmly believe that happiness is an inside job. And it's our own internal struggles that causes so much pain. And the worst thing, even with you speaking about trauma there, about our internal struggles and trauma, is if we're traumatized and internally struggling with self-worth and things like that, that's where the place we choose from. We choose what we deserve from there. Be it what body we deserve, what partner we deserve, what life we deserve, whether we deserve to go out and be around people. All of that we choose from where we are.
Yeah.
So not only does trauma affect you, obviously, when it happens, and your or abuse or any of that, but it's a double whammy. It affects you obviously when it happens, and can threaten your core safety within yourself, and it can also really, really impact your self-worth. And again, that impacts every decision you make in your life.
And the next generation, if there's a next
Exactly.
generation. Right. Being in a partnership, having a steady job,
100%.
reaching the pinnacle of their success. I mean, I am so interested. I cannot wait to go to, so for your podcast, where can one find your podcast?
Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay.
So the podcast is Happiness is an Inside Job. And I talk about a lot of what I work with. Stress and emotional eating, anxiety, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, all of that. And in every one of them, I like to give out tools, ways of understanding it, and ways to change. And that can be found on Apple or on Spotify or on my website. Your Gift to You is the name of my business. And that's once a week. It's out every Tuesday. And as I say, it's called Happiness is an Inside Job. So that's and I love that. That is pure passion. I absolutely just love if it changes. If someone listens and goes, wow, I sometimes get a text going, oh, thought you were talking to me when you said that there. And that's cool, because you're connected, you're reaching people.
And I'll definitely put everything on lifehakx.com in the form of a blog, which will have all the links to your website, podcast, and everything else. So as we were about to get into the whole pinnacle of success thing, this is an event that's coming up, one that I myself am going to and very much looking forward to. You want to tell everyone a little bit about it?
100%. This is a 2-day event out in County Castle, Fitzpatrick Castle. It's called, in County in Dublin. An absolutely beautiful location, first off, to set the scene. It's a 2-day workshop from 9:30 to 4:45 on the Saturday and Sunday, 28th and 29th of January. And it's myself and Freddy Jacquin, who I'm very, very honoured to work with. Freddy has helped 25,000 clients approximately within his career. And not only that, but it's his view on life. When you're kind of in a room where you're talking to him, you literally have those aha moments, those life-changing. You're sitting there going, wow, yeah, he was born to do what he does. He's exceptionally skilled, and he really is. He's a great bloke. And I think everybody can hugely benefit from what he has to give. He's very, very talented as a hypnotherapist, extremely talented, and he's very, very willing. He wants to give as much as he possibly can to share as many of
he really
his techniques as he possibly can. So with myself and himself combined for this 2-day workshop, what we're looking to do is our own mind is our biggest limit. It's our absolute biggest limit. We create the walls that we're stuck in, and we also hold the key. So Pinnacle Performance is aimed at leveling us up, getting rid of all that gunk that triggers the anxiety, the stress, the imposter syndrome, all of that, and leveling us up to achieve all the successes, desires, dreams, and goals that we have. And giving everyone the tools and the skills to actually do that within their own life. We can spend years in waiting position, waiting for that to buy that particular book or do that particular course or all of these things. Everything we need is within. And we unleash that warrior, that guru, and our potential is absolutely phenomenal. And between myself and Freddy, that's what we want for this Pinnacle Performance, to show people and bring out in them all that they already have, not what we're going to give them, all that they already have, and teach them and give them the tools and skills to work with that. And obviously give them there's loads of different tools and techniques built into it, some very short that you can use in your daily lives going forward. And once you build these in, like if we can learn to manage and control our own emotions rather than letting the emotions control us, we are unstoppable. It's our mind that tells us constantly, like if you're out, for a small example, on a run or in the gym doing an exercise, it's your mind going, oh, you're knackered, oh, you won't get one more, or you can't do this, you can't do that. That's emotion. Yeah. If we can control and harness that, so that's one of the huge things that this is focused on. And also, like that Freddy works with the College of Medicine. He invented the arrow technique for pain management that can be used on both emotional and physical pain. As I've said, he has phenomenal techniques. I'm an expert in the anxiety, stress management and addictions field. So I want to bring a lot of that and a lot of understanding to this. And yeah, as I say, when people walk out there, I want them ready, knowing that they're their own, they're the warrior, they're the guru.
It sounds like the perfect event, not only for therapists who really want to know how to reach inside and find the best that they can for themselves to become the best therapist, but also for people who just want to stop ancestry patterns from occurring in families, stop themselves from continuously making the same mistakes or continuing in the same vicious cycles. So I think it's very beneficial for both the layman as well as the professional to attend this event. And besides, I'll be giving celebrity tours afterwards for fun.
Yeah. Freddy has, one of his phenomenal books. I love this one. I'm listening to it about 5 years. I kind of followed, half stalked Freddy for a number. I used to watch all his videos, his books, but there's one particular book that he has that I found phenomenal. And I've studied hypnotherapy for years, but this particular book, it's world class. And he's given away to the first 20 a copy of his book, and he's signing it on the day. He's personally signing it, which is really, really epic as well. So that's a great bonus that's in there as well. And there's a couple more little bonuses on the day as well. But yeah, it's brilliant. It's for, as you say, the layman and the professional, and to, as I say, walk away where they're, they know they're ready to go out and achieve every dream, desire and goal that is there.
Yeah.
Get rid of all that scarcity, that gunk, and all that is holding us back. It's like we believe our life, we've defined our life purpose. We are our life purpose. It's not about becoming anything better or anyone better. It's literally just unbecoming all the crap, that's holding you back, all the gunk, the hurt, and healing and releasing and letting go.
Well, Lynda, you're a fantastic cheerleader for Freddy, and I'm looking forward to your energy and his energy. I cannot wait for this. So for people who are looking to find more about you and more about the actual event, they can go to yourgifttoyou.com. This will be up on the LifeHakx website. And also, you're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook. So looking forward to seeing you soon. Looking forward to this wonderful event.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you so much for being on LifeHakx. We will talk again soon.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life. Yeah.
LifeHakx. LifeHakx.com. That's with a K and an X.